I told you I would be back, and I am. I wanted to do an update. As we all know, I have been MIA since January. Oh my goodness, I look back at my YouTube channel when I uploaded my new one, my new Seysii show. Which, by the way, thank you for all the love. I got a lot of tweets and Facebook comments. Obama followed me. I need to stop lying. Started to talk about why, like, what's been going on with me since my departure. Since I got lazy in the Seysii show. I'm not going to give you like a blow by blow of what's been happening between January 2014 and August 2015, but there is something that I want to get off my chest. I have done in the past with the Seysii show. I have had a show that was about something that was kind of going on in my life, and that was my homecoming show. If you don't remember the homecoming show, I will put a link right here. The goal that I had with the Seysii show was to talk about everything that was on my mind. So it was supposed to talk about all things entertainment, anything that was personally going on in my life. I was in a relationship. It started off cool. All relationships start off cool. This one changed for the worst. This is really hard to talk about. Why am I doing this? It needs to be said. I was in a mentally abusive relationship. It's hard to say that on camera. This relationship, like I said, it started off good. It started off a whole lot of fun. The relationship took the turn. First took its turn was when one day he was just like,
"You're not my girl. I don't feel like you're my girl. I have other people that's interested in me."
And I was like, all right, fine, whatever, bye. Then I guess because of the fact that I was just like, oh, whatever, he was like, oh, I took that back. I'm sorry. I love you. Da 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 da. Eventually, like, because of the fact that we were always together, we got back together. After a while, I noticed that my relationships with other people changed. During the time that I was in this relationship, my relationship with my mother got really strained. My mom is my best friend. I love my mom. My mom has always and will forever be the first person that I go to whenever I have a problem, anything good, anything bad. My mom is my best friend. I noticed my relationship with my mother was different. It was difficult. The relationship that I had with my other friends was hard too. One of the biggest issues that he had was my personality was too big. Can you believe that? My personality was too big, and that I was too comfortable around the guys of my job versus the girls. And he would start saying things like, I don't like that my girl is like, I don't want these guys looking at my girl like they can get it, or something like that. You sound dumb. Then he started to complain about my career choice. I'm going to say this on camera. In the next 20 years, I'm going to be a mogul. I'm going to be an entertainment mogul. As we all know, entertainment is a male-dominated field. I need to be comfortable with the idea of being around guys. And at one point, he kept asking me, well,
"What if I want you to marry me? And you were asked to go on tour with your best friend. What would you choose?"
I would always say, I would marry you, and then after our honeymoon, I would go on the tour. What's so bad about that? You can come with me. I had to choose between him and my personality, him and my career. I had to choose between him and my friends, and he had a problem that I had a lot of people in my circle. My best friend, my absolute closest friends would call me. And because me and this individual was always together, or always on the phone. If we weren't together, we were on the phone. He didn't like the fact that when my friends would call me, like, I would take the call. But I'm with him 24/7. I felt like 24/7. He just wanted all of my attention. He said so many times, I want you to be my everything. In the back of my mind, I'm like, I can't be your everything. It's just too hard to be somebody's everything. You got to be their mother, their father, their sister, their brother, their auntie, their uncle, their grandmother, their grandfather, their doctor, their lawyer, their nurse, their cheerleader, their teacher, their pet, their friend, their lover, their everything, their God at one point. And that was just too much pressure for me. That's still too much pressure for me now. I can't be somebody's everything. You need to be your everything. Mind you, he confesses that he had a relationship with somebody this whole time. I was the other woman. And I didn't even know it. You know, sometimes people ask, how can you be the other woman and not know? Because he would call me all the time, hanging out with me all the time. And the only time that we barely saw each other was in the morning for breakfast. I saw him all the time. Little did I know that during the mornings where I thought he was getting ready for work, he was with his fiance. I'm nobody's second choice. I'm nobody's side piece. I'm nobody's backup plan. Mind you, in the 2nd month mark, he wanted to marry me. You had a fiance? He broke up with her, and I still took him back because back around my birthday, we had our first big argument. He wanted us to move in. I considered it, but that's because of the fact that I wanted to have my own apartment. It wasn't just him that I was considering moving in with, and that was a problem for him. We argued from Patterson to New York City, and then on our ride back home from the city to back to Patterson, we argued again. And this time I was just like, I can't take it no more. Leave me alone. And everywhere that I went, he followed me. I walked into the dollar store, he followed me. I walked into my bank, he followed me. I called a cab, he got in the cab with me. I got out the cab, he got out the cab. I threw everything that he ever gave me in his face. The jacket that I was wearing, the shoes on my feet. And he still stayed with me. Later on that day, not only did he stay with me, he went to a florist and bought me a dozen roses. When I found out that he had a fiance, I took him back because I was like, if you were willing to stay with me after I did something publicly humiliating, then I can forgive you for having a fiance. Oh my gosh, Sierra, why would you do that? I liked the attention. I really did. Because he was constantly calling and he was always attentive. And I didn't have that. So I got used to the idea of having somebody to be there. I didn't want to be alone again. I settled for the disrespect because I didn't want to be alone again. The biggest issue that he had was that I had a best friend that was a male and straight. I was just so convinced of the idea of having my then boyfriend meet my best friend and see that when me and my best friend are around each other, we are like little brother, big sister. And when we both had some time off, I was like, why don't we go visit this person in the other state? Well, of course, discussion turned into an argument. And an argument for us wasn't just like about the topic at hand. It was about every single thing that we ever argued about. Meanwhile, my friend had some of his friends, his local friends, coming over to meet me. I was telling them, don't show up because we're kind of in the middle of something. And then my ex is yelling in the background, oh, come over, I want to see him. They showed up anyway. This dude got so mad, pushed me out of the way to get in my friend's face. Long story short, he tried to fight my best friend. And I was so scared. Eventually, we go back into the room after the security guard tries to see if there was a problem. So I tried to leave. He tried to block me from leaving. He blocked the door, and then security was at the door, and then I tried to leave. He followed me. He tried to push me back into the room. We had a lot of pushing and shoving that day. Eventually, I made it downstairs, and he was right behind me, and he was like, I'll kill myself if you leave me. We were separated at that time for a couple of weeks. I'm going to be honest, it was a couple of weeks. When I came back home from that trip, I saw him. The argument about marriage came back. We argued for days. The most pestering that I had at one point, I had over 100 missed calls, 80, 90 text messages, and 40 different voicemails in the course of 2 days. At this point, he thought he could just show up at my house. The next day, we had another argument because it was my best friend's birthday. Not the one from another state. My best friend since 7th grade. It was his birthday. And he wanted to go to a club. This dude thought he could tell me what I can and cannot do at a club. You're not going to clock me. What you're not going to do is check me, boo. That day, he decides for the 2nd day in a row to show up at my house. At this point, my brother and sister are home. Make a long story short, he tried to force himself in my house. I had to call the police. I filed the police report finally. And that's how I was able to get out. 1 year ago today was the day that I was free. I tried so desperately to get out of this relationship. We broke up and got back together every month. When I say that I had no will, it felt like I couldn't get out. He always talked about trapping me. He wanted me to be dependent on him for everything. Financially, emotionally, and mentally. He wanted me to be dependent on him. And because of the fact that I didn't want to be alone and I wasn't strong enough at that time to just be by myself, I allowed it to happen. You know, some of the things that he loved to tell me was,
"You can't do that to a man. You better be glad I love you, because no other man would take your crap."
And at times I started to believe him. I blamed myself for every situation. I loved myself to get out. I just had such a hard time staying out. At that time, I felt like nobody could protect me. I was more concerned about him and his career because he wanted to be a lawyer and a politician, and I didn't want to ruin that for him. I felt like I had nobody to protect me. It felt like everything was and I never want to feel like that again. I didn't feel like I was strong enough because the calls, the constant calling, the high volume of phone calls and messages and voicemails were too much. I felt like I was trapped. And I felt like nobody loved me like he did at that time. Like, it was just so hard. I didn't even want to be in my own home. I didn't feel like I had anywhere to go. I would make excuses for him. He's a good guy. I don't make it easy for him. Subconsciously, I knew that I needed to get out. I needed someone to physically keep me from going back. When I finally did decide to file a restraining order, I felt like I had some form of protection. I didn't win the permanent one, but because of the fact that I was granted a temporary one, he knew that I was done. I loved him more than I loved me. I allowed him to be in my head so much that I believed everything that he said, and his reality or his word was my mental reality. I am so thankful that God got me through. When I thought that I had no one and I felt like I was alone, they all were there just waiting for me. I want to thank every single person that has been by my side. I love each and every one of y'all. I thank you. This was a long episode and this was a heavy episode, but I want to be as transparent as possible because of the fact that I've been through something that I know somebody can relate to. This is serious stuff. When we talk about abuse, we normally talk about physical. Very rarely ever talk about the mental and the emotional and even the financial abuse. So if you feel like you are in this, male or female, you need to go seek help because you deserve more. And if you feel like nobody understands or if nobody loves you, I understand and I love you. That's all that I have to say for today. Come next week, come Monday. Every Monday will be an entertaining show. I don't know what the schedule is going to be like yet, but I am going to do more Seysii shows. I said I would, and I am. I'm going to keep my word. And not because I'm keeping my word to you. I'm keeping this promise for myself. So, that's it for today. I will see you on Monday. Bye. Oh, one more thing. I have been writing a show called Damaged Goods. And if any of you remember, I have this episode right here. I will be doing a casting very soon. So if you feel like you are an actor and you want to be a part of this show, keep an eye out. At the end of one of these Seysii shows, I am going to have an official casting date. I am very excited. I have been talking about me doing this show for years, and now I'm actually going to do it. Don't forget to subscribe, share the video, like it, comment, give me life. Okay? Bye. Subscribe to me tonight.